Hey everyone, welcome back to the Point Podcast. I'm your host, Noah Warren. Hope everybody's doing well today on Tuesday, June the 7th. A lot to dive into today. It's a Tuesday, so as you all know, Shamus will be in for a chat, the local hour, as I like to call it. We'll get into a number of things. We'll get into his Celtics in the NBA Finals. We're going to talk some hockey. Might even get talked about some golf with Shamus, just about the Live Tour and Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, and just the amount of money that's being thrown around to some of these golfers, which is just crazy to think about. And there's also the Aaron Donald story, with him re-upping in LA, what that means for the rest of the NFL and all of that. But we got a number of NHL stories that one I thought we'd get to today, which is the Oilers obviously losing last night. I said yesterday in the podcast, I felt like it'd be a close game. It reeked of the Avalanche winning, and the Oilers should have won the game. We'll get to that. And then there's the story that I thought this would happen, this story out of Boston, where Bruce Cassidy was fired. I don't know if you recall in the podcast, if you're a listener, I thought he'd be fired. They lost in the first round. But after the weeks went by, I'm just more and more surprised. We're going to dive into that today. I'm going to get into the weeds of that story because it's an interesting decision. Where do you go from here? You don't replace great coaches. It's not easy to replace great coaches. Got to a Stanley Cup final. He never missed the playoffs in his tenure there. It's a tough move. Might actually be for the best of Bruce Cassidy, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's start Avs Oilers last night, Game 4 from Edmonton. And another entertaining game. A 4-game sweep where I was never bored in these games. Saturday night's game was very competitive. Last night's game goes to overtime. I was thankful it was a quick overtime so I could get some sleep. But it wasn't a sweep where you go. I remember Ray Ferraro talking about Rangers Islanders in '94, where the Islanders got swept, and I think the score of that series was like 24-3 or something crazy. That wasn't this sweep. This was a competitive sweep. It was a thoroughly enjoyable series, and ultimately, there's things about last night that you look at and you can pinpoint. Mike Smith. The title of this podcast is Smitty, because goaltenders playing the puck, you're gonna get burned sometimes. Mike Smith is a riverboat gambler. He's not afraid to take chances. He's not afraid to play the puck. And sometimes you're going to get burned doing it. Igor Shesterkin is a great puck handler. He's confident in doing it. There will be times where he makes a mistake and he will get killed for it. But you kind of forget about it until it's in a big moment, right? Mike Smith might turn it over in a regular season game. It's thrown out because it's 1 of 82. You move on. There's games. But when there's only 2 series left, when there's only 4 teams left, you're fixated on those 4. And you're in such a tight game. You have the lead. You've gotten, after the Zach Hyman 4-2 goal, you have all that energy. And then Mike Smith coughs the puck over. And ultimately, it leads to a goal, and it leads to a momentum change. It leads to Colorado having some feel. Because after Hyman scored early in the third period, I truly felt the Oilers are going to win the game. Like, well, this is going 5. Because I felt they had the momentum. After the midway point of that second period, it was a weird end of the second period where the Colorado Avalanche they lost their positioning. They lost their structure. Their defense seemed to be losing their footing quite often, and just their systems were completely out of whack. So Edmonton took advantage of it. They started to get power plays. McDavid was doing his thing, and you go on from there. Breakdowns, obviously, on the first Hyman goal where Draisaitl had a great feed cross ice. Things were happening. But you have the game under control. You have that momentum, and basically what you're doing in these type of games, and this isn't breaking news, you're holding on to a lead. You're not doing anything to hurt yourself. You're just trying to play the game. Just play. You're still going to take offensive chances. It's a 4-2 game. You got Mike Smith in the net. But I think rule of thumb, normally, when you have a 4-2 lead and it's game 4 and a must-win in the Eastern Conference Final, goaltenders don't go out to play the puck. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's just a rule of thumb for me. And that's hindsight being 2020. Obviously, that's a result-oriented thought. But I would think the same thing in any other situation. The goalie, Mike Smith, this is just what happens with Mike Smith. It's crazy. I mentioned this, and they even mentioned this on the broadcast last night. Mike Smith has been in 2 conference finals. They are a decade apart, if you can believe it. It was that far apart. And he had a blunder in that series when he was playing the puck as well. But Mike Smith, he can't control himself in these situations. He has to play the puck. He has to be part of it. And I think that's part of his ego. Because you see, after he gives up this terrible play, he loses it, throwing his stick, acting like a little 4-year-old, quite frankly, he loses his focus. And Colorado scores 3 consecutive goals, and then it takes an Edmonton, Zach Kassian to tie the game to send it to overtime. But did anybody think Edmonton was going to win in overtime? I certainly didn't. But for Mike Smith, this isn't all about Mike Smith. Edmonton's an inferior team. They should be happy that they got this far. I didn't have this team go into the conference final. If somebody would have asked me at the start of the playoffs, I would have thought would have better odds to lose to the LA Kings than get all the way to the conference final. So kudos to the Edmonton Oilers. Kudos to Connor McDavid. And I mentioned this yesterday. I feel it's important to mention. Darnell Nurse was getting killed on Twitter, and it bothered me because he's got the worst contract in hockey now. He's always a terrible defenseman. He can't play. Let's just kick a man while he's down. Okay. Was he not injured? Did you not think he had something wrong with him? Apparently, people on Twitter did not. The guy had a torn hip flexor, and he played the entire playoffs with it. This isn't a broken toe. This isn't some little minor injury. This isn't an NBA injury. This is a real injury. This is serious. A torn hip flexor? He battled. He deserves credit for playing. And I agree with what Jay Woodcroft said after the game. He said it's just a miracle that Draisaitl and Nurse are playing. Draisaitl, for what his body must have been, I'm guessing 25%. He had an incredible game last night. He gave everything he had. I don't know if he would have been able to play Game 5, quite frankly, because he was beat to hell. But he battled and he fought, and he had 4 points last night. He was incredible. His pass, cross seam, he's battling for pucks. He gave everything he had. And we can make big conclusions about this Edmonton Oilers team. Oh, it's a fluke. They'll never get back. That could be true. In 2006, they didn't make the playoffs almost a decade later. 2015. They went from 2006 to 2015 without making the playoffs, Edmonton Oilers. So could they go on a streak like this? They could. That was a much different team. Chris Pronger left. Fernando Pisani left. Dwayne Rollison retired. There's not going to be that much turnover in the Edmonton Oilers. You're still going to have Connor McDavid. You're still going to have Leon Draisaitl. You're still going to have Darnell Nurse, much to some people's chagrin. And you're gonna have some really high quality pieces. But what we've learned, and I truly believe this, good teams beat great players. Tampa's got some really good players. A few great ones. Vasilevsky, Kucherov occasionally. But they're also a great team. Sergachev, Chernak. They're just a well-functioning team. Think of the Islanders the last couple of years. How did they beat the Boston Bruins in the second round of last year's playoffs? They don't have any. Do they have any great players? No, they don't. They're a pretty damn good team. You take Marchand, you take Bergeron, you take Pasternak, you take McAvoy before you get to one New York Islander, but somehow they beat them. McKinnon's great. McDavid's better. Rantanen's great. Draisaitl's better. But ultimately, the better team won the series. Colorado can throw 4 lines at you. Their fourth line is veteran-laden. It's not high-quality scoring chances. They're not buzzing. But in all likelihood, it's going to be better than your fourth line most nights. That's just the way they've done it all postseason. Their defense, I think Tampa's the only defense that can beat it when it comes to the best in NHL. They might meet in the Stanley Cup final. That'd be fun. I think both defense scores are great. Jack Johnson has his warts, but every team has a defenseman where you'd like him not to be on the ice. But McDavid and Draisaitl are special, special talents. Two of the best players in the world. They might be the two best, quite frankly. You know, I'm sure Matthews and some of these players like that have had great years. Will be elevated in the player rankings come next year. We'll do the to the point player ranking draft, however you want to define it, in the fall, and we'll see what the chips fall where they may. I'm already thinking of my where I'll have the players slotted, but the better team won the series. Yes, Colorado has great players too, and that's a nice luxury to have. But you also look, Devon Toews is not a special player. He isn't. He's a really good defenseman. But how often is Devon Toews talked about nationally? Never. It's like Jacob Slavin. It's like a Brett Pesce, but he's on a great team. He has other great players around him. So he's over. In Carolina, Jacob Slavin gets more play than Devon Toews because he's the focal point of the team. He's Carolina's best player. But he's not, you know less about him. Colorado, Nazem Kadri. Nazem Kadri's known for being a Toronto Maple Leaf, quite frankly. That's why if Nazem Kadri was drafted by Carolina and got traded to Colorado, he'd be the guy that gets suspended. But he wouldn't be known nationally. He wouldn't be a guy, oh, there's Nazem Kadri. But he's the former Maple Leaf, so you know him. I wouldn't want that moniker, but again, that's stuck on him. Burakovsky, solid player. Alex Newhook, young guy, but extremely talented. Obey Kubel. This team is just built so fundamentally strong. And then we get to the piece that I can't talk about enough. And I looked at Conn Smythe odds on FanDuel this morning. The front runner for the Conn Smythe Trophy, as we currently sit here, is Cale Makar. And I've been talking about this a couple weeks. I'm glad I had this take before the Edmonton series. So it's not like it's a hot take. It's not like I'm jumping on something. This was my take. Everybody who goes on TV today that are on podcasts, whatever, in my opinion, they're stealing my material because I had this first because I saw it coming. Cale Makar is the best player on the Colorado Avalanche. He's better than Nathan MacKinnon. He's more important than Nathan MacKinnon. He's just a better player. That doesn't mean Nathan MacKinnon's a slouch. That doesn't mean he's a bad player whatsoever. He's still elite. But Cale Makar is the best player on that team, and I think he's the best defenseman in the world. What this guy did and what he does on a nightly basis is incredible. His development into such a fundamentally strong defenseman that makes so few mistakes is awesome to see. He went from just an offensive guy that was truly one-dimensional, and he morphed his game into something so much more dynamic, has so much more purpose. He plays with such a confidence, a quiet confidence, and he just oozes success. Who scores the first goal of the game? Cale Makar. Who gets the primary assist on the game-winning goal? Cale Makar. He sets the tone, and then you know what he does? He sets the table, and then he cleans it up. He'll set it for you. You can come over for a nice dinner, maybe a nice dish, have a nice little piece of chicken, maybe shake and bake, if that's what you're up to. You can have that meal, potatoes, maybe a green bean, whatever you like. I like turnip. Maybe throw some turnip on there. And you'll eat the dish. It'll be great. You'll watch it. It's fantastic. This is Cale Makar. His whole game, this whole meal, this great meal that I'm talking about, that's Cale Makar. But then you're done the meal. And you have to decide, well, who's going to clean up the dishes? Nobody wants to do it. Closing games isn't easy. Getting big points in big situations isn't easy. It's talked about all the time in the NBA. Who's the closer? Who's going to be the guy to close this deal? Well, I know for Colorado, it's Cale Makar. In every big moment, he's the guy that delivers. So he sets the table, and then he cleans it. He'll go get the dishes. He'll put them in the dishwasher. He'll wash and dry, whatever you need. He's truly fantastic talent. One of my favorite players to watch. And he's a guy that's very hard not to root for because he's so damn good. Another fun fact from last night's game, for back-to-back seasons, Arturi Lehkonen has scored the game-winning goal, both in overtime, to send his team to the Stanley Cup final. Did it last year for Montreal against the Vegas Golden Knights. I remember it was on a Friday night. And this year, he does it in Game 4 against the Edmonton Oilers. He loves 2 series-clinching goals from Arturi Lehkonen. He's got 2 on the team. Darren Helm has 2. That's a crazy statistic that both these guys have series-clinching goals. But Colorado looks like an unbeatable team right now. The way they're playing, their confidence, Makar. The Kadri injury would worry me, although I think Compher's settled in very well. They had Rantanen playing center last night. He fared very well. But like I mentioned, they got all kinds of depth. They got the most points in the postseason by a defense core. I think it jumped to 56 last night, which is head and shoulders number 1. Their defense core provides a lot of offense for this team. And now they get to sit and wait. They get to sit and wait for the Eastern Conference Final, where Rangers-Tampa, Game 4 tonight in Tampa. If Tampa wins tonight, which they very well could, that means at the very least, the series is playing until Saturday. That's Game 6. If it goes 7, the game's on Tuesday. So that could be a week off for this team. And I believe it's going to be at least a week off because they start the Stanley Cup final on a set day. That's just how the TV networks work. So Colorado's going to get some time off. They got to hope that this series, these 2 teams battle each other out, and whoever's left, they can just pick them off like vultures and deal with them rather quickly. But an impressive series by Colorado. And now for Edmonton quickly. They have a few jobs to do in the offseason. Number 1, Jay Woodcroft has earned a head coaching position. He was an interim coach. They brought him in mid-season. They fired Dave Tippett, and he got them to a conference final. That means that's a 3-year deal. Signed him up, give him the money. He earned it. That's done. Done. Number 2, and this is easier said than done, but you need to get a goaltender. You need to get a goaltender because Mike Smith is not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. He never has been throughout his career. But he's going to be 41 going into next season. Mikko Koskinen is going to be an unrestricted free agent, so you're finally got that contract off the books. In a perfect world, you come back with 2 goaltenders, but I feel like a lot of teams are saying that right now, and there's only so many goalies to go around. What I worry that the Edmonton Oilers are going to try to do, I don't know if this player will accept going to Edmonton, but I could see them signing Marc-Andre Fleury. I think it's a good move compared to Mike Smith, but Marc-Andre Fleury's not winning you a Stanley Cup. He's got a lot of fans. I realize that. He's a good guy, the Flower. You're not winning a Stanley Cup with him. It's just not at this point. He's going to be 37. He's another older goaltender, but there's always what's up with Carey Price in Montreal? Is he going to be healthy? Can he come back? Would he go to Edmonton? If I'm Edmonton, I look into it. Montreal eats half of it. You'll have to trade away some pieces. Maybe Dylan Holloway, who made his NHL debut last night, goes back in return. But that's something you got to kick tires on goaltenders. Any goalie that's available, that is good, you look into. John Gibson, another guy you can make calls on. It's in division, but Anaheim might make that trade for the right price. So those are 2 big things for me. Goaltending, and you got to re-sign Jay Woodcroft. And also, your depth's got to be better. Archibald, Derek Ryan, these guys aren't game breakers. They aren't great. They weren't great depth pieces. Zach Cassian needs to go. His time at Edmonton's over. Honestly, his time in the NHL might be over, but he's not a difference maker anymore. He doesn't bring much to the table. So Zach, your bottom of your lineup needs to change. Jesse Puljujarvi, I would look into trading him, see what you can get for him. Could you get a prospect that's not having a great career somewhere else for him? Would you make a trade for a disgruntled player or a struggling player for another struggling player? Because he is bringing nothing to the table in Edmonton. He was a big letdown in this series. You needed something from Puljujarvi, and he didn't bring it. I thought Nugent Hopkins played extremely well last night. He battled hard. Draisaitl obviously played great, McDavid. But Puljujarvi was brought in. He went high in the draft. He's not Neil Yakupov, but he's been a disappointment drafted that high, and to see what he's brought to the table at the NHL level. So can you make a move for Jesse Puljujarvi? Is there something that can be done that you can upgrade the position? Because he's not going to be the answer. He just isn't. He's not going to be the guy to change things. But these are just tweaks I think Edmonton needs to look into. But one thing definitively that I can say about this team, if it remains the same, you're not going to win the Stanley Cup with that goaltending and that defense core. If you want to keep a defense core like you have, because you have a lot of guys under contract, Keith's under contract for next year, Cody Cece's under contract for next year, Darnell Nurse is locked up long-term, Kulak's unrestricted free agent, so he can walk. He'll likely won't be there. Chris Russell's UFA. So they will have to bring in some new defensemen. But you got 3 or 4 locked in that are going to be on your roster next year. So if you're going to have a similar defense that isn't elite, so to speak, you're going to need a great goaltender to compensate with that. You're going to need a goalie that is an upper echelon goalie, not a 40-year-old guy, not Mike Smith, not Marc-Andre Fleury. It has to be somebody that is truly great. I mentioned Gibson. I'd make calls. It is in division, but I'd make calls on him. Freddie, you can always say Freddie Anderson in Carolina because I don't think he'll be back. I would make a call on him. I call the garbage dump to see if he's there because there's a better chance that he's at the garbage dump than he is on the ice in the postseason. So there's moves to be made. There's calls. You ask around and see what's available. Who's free? Who would make a deal with me? Because McDavid and Draisaitl are great. You just had a taste for the conference finals. You battled hard. McDavid and Draisaitl couldn't have played much better than they did. They played a better team with, I would say, better goaltending. Frank Kuz was better than Mike Smith. And that tells you all you need to know. Mike Smith can be a backup next year because he's under contract. I wouldn't have gave him a 2-year deal. That's another mistake by Ken Holland. But he can't be your starter. You can't have McDavid and Draisaitl go into a season knowing you're not going to win. With these two guys on your roster, it has to, every year you should have irrational confidence that you're going to win the Stanley Cup. And most teams do in pro sports. I've heard, David Sampson, who I had on the podcast, and he talks about on his, when he was managing the Marlins, where they went into seasons with irrational confidence, sometimes thinking, we're going to win this amount of games, or we're 10 games under 500 in June, but we're going to turn it around with this homestand. And you just put that in your brain that you're going to be better than you are. Well, if Mike Smith is, goaltender 1 on opening night, you can't have that irrational confidence. You might for a minute, but at the end of the line, Mike Smith is going to do something to screw it up, and he's 41 friggin' years old. This was his last hurrah. Colorado is not going anywhere. They're going to be great again next year. Kadri might be gone. There'll be changes to the roster, but they're still going to be very good. Calgary should be damn good as well. Should be motivated to come back and play some good hockey. There are going to be teams that are better. The West is inferior to the Eastern Conference, no doubt about it. But there are going to be teams that are rising that are going to get better. Mark my words. St. Louis is going to be better next year, I believe. They'll make some moves, but I think they're going to continue to be competitive. Minnesota has got some cap issues, but they will be competitive. LA made the playoffs in a stunner. I think Anaheim will be a better team next year. I'm interested to see what they do in this offseason. But there's always teams that make a jump. And every year there's teams that fall apart a little bit. History would tell us that the Edmonton Oilers aren't a stable team to bet on to be great again next year. But if you're Ken Holland, You had a great season. You bought yourself some time. You got to a conference final. But if I'm an owner, if I'm just Noah here sitting looking at their roster, and if I can pinpoint major issues that I know aren't going to win a championship, then you're not doing your job that well. I knew the Philadelphia Phillies weren't going to be good this year because I looked at their bullpen and I looked at their defense. Joe Girardi gets fired. No shit. Their roster stinks. That's more on Dave Dombrowski than it is on Joe Girardi. Jay Woodcroft turned this around. New systems, all of this, great. Well, coaches can get a longer stay. Coaches can get benefit of the doubt, sometimes just based on goaltending. Just based on great play in net. New York doesn't have great systems. Doesn't have all kinds of a great setup. But what has Gerard Gallant gotten in New York and in Vegas? Elite goaltending come playoff time in his first year with their team. He got it from Fleury in the inaugural year in Vegas. Shesterkin is playing unbelievable this year. Your flaws as a head coach could be made up by great goaltending. Jay Woodcroft might be the fundamentally best coach in the National Hockey League. I think he's a good coach. Like I just said, extend him. But if you have a porous defense and a lackluster goaltending tandem, you're going to be out of a job pretty quick. So that's Bruce Cassidy. It's a lot of why the Boston Bruins didn't have success this postseason because their goaltending wasn't that good. Linus Ullmark started the first 2 games. Should he have? They started Jeremy Swayman in one of those 2 games. Do they win the series? Maybe. He was a lot better than Linus Ullmark, I know that. But sometimes it's just little decisions like that. Sometimes it's, we don't have a great goalie. Tuukka Rask retired. We're up shit creek. Well, for the Edmonton Oilers, they haven't had a great goalie in forever. Dwayne Rollison, who was an old man at the time, caught heat and went on a run. But to sell to your franchise, to sell to your best players that Mike Smith is the answer, it's just fool's gold. It's stupidity. It's going nowhere. After last season, where they missed the playoffs, they brought back Koskinen and Smith. And the only reason I'm confident they're not going to be bringing back Koskinen and Smith this season is that Koskinen's an unrestricted free agent. Because otherwise, and I truly mean this, I think they bring back the same duo. Ken Holland seems to be comfortable with these 2 guys. I have no idea why, but that just seems to be where it is. I'll be quite clear here. Ville Husso might be the best option on the table. St. Louis goalie is going to be a guy to look at. I think the Leafs will kick tires. I think the Oilers are going to kick tires. Every team that needs the goalie should look into Ville Husso. He's better than Mike Smith. Point blank. Is he good enough to win a Stanley Cup? That remains to be seen, but I know he's better than Mike Smith. I know Mike Smith isn't winning you one. It'd be nice if Edmonton could get an elite guy. John Gibson would be the perfect fit because they got a great team and he's a great goalie. I'm interested to see what this team does, how desperate they are. Because something you can't get is complacent. Ken Holland's a great GM. He's won Stanley Cups, had all kinds of success in Detroit. No doubt about it. But this isn't Detroit. This isn't, you got a great defense, you got great forwards, and your goaltending was adequate. Because you know why they were winning in Detroit with adequate goaltending when Hasek was over the hill and Chris Osgood was wearing the old bucket and making a few good saves? Because you had an elite team. They had the Colorado Avalanche team in Detroit. That's why. You won with adequate goaltending because you had that goaltending tandem. You had those defense. You had Lidstrom. You had Chelios. You had Yzerman. You had Shanny, Darren McCarty. That great team. And then your goaltending was adequate because you didn't allow that an elite goaltender. But it was enough to get them through it. So I'm fascinated to see what the Oilers do. They deserve credit for the season that they've had. You can't take away what they've accomplished this year. getting to a conference final, you had some productivity. You can look ahead and look at it and say, we had a positive season. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But it's what you do from this positivity that tells you what kind of organization you are. New York could still win a Stanley Cup, but I think they're going to have a big offseason and try to get better in a major way. Will Edmonton do the same? Will Calgary do the same? These teams are getting close, but they aren't. What does Carolina do? You can get close, but it's how you respond. Can you get over that hump to get to the conference final and then get to the Stanley and keep growing on your positive season? Because positive seasons, that narrative can be spun quite easily going into a summer. We feel great about our season. We just need a few different little additions. We can go all the way. How many times have we heard that? How many times have you heard that in sports? We were a field goal away. Jacksonville, we had a 10-point lead the fourth quarter against the New England Patriots. A year later, Blake Bortles was cut, and they haven't made the playoffs since then. They've gone through 2 head coaches. That was just, Jacksonville was a quarter. They were up 10 in the fourth quarter. They were very close to going to the Super Bowl. They haven't made the postseason since. Ottawa Senators in 2017 lost a game in double overtime in the Eastern Conference Final. Chris Kunitz scored that goal. Since then, Chris Kunitz has retired, and the Ottawa Senators have not even sniffed a playoff position. Haven't gotten close. So getting close, having a positive season and building on it does not necessarily mean it's going to happen. It's what general managers, it's what teams, it's what players do in that time to get better and to come back the next year hungry and ready to fulfill that prophecy. Ready to seize that opportunity and say, you know what, we had a great season. It can't just be one. Because it's way easier to have a great season than to fall back. It's the teams that get better. It's the Golden State Warriors where you lose in the second round the next year, you're an NBA champion. You grew on it. You got better. You use that experience for good. That can't happen. Tampa got swept in the first round. They took that in the chin. They used it as fuel. They haven't lost a playoff series since. There's different stories in all of sports, but it's easier to be the team that that has success and then fails for years, time to come. And that group that was so close to getting to a Stanley Cup final, reaching the ultimate goal, is broken up. Because they couldn't seize it that one year, and that was it. That success, that wave that they had was a fallacy. It was a one-year wonder. It was Sunglasses at Night, if you know that song from the 80s. Good song. I'm forgetting the name of the singer who wrote it right now. It's a good Canadian. I know he's a Canadian, wrote that song. It's a good song. People thought he'd write more. Unfortunately, that was it. One-hit wonder. So it's going to bother me now. Sunglasses at Night. Good song, but not a great artist. Didn't write many great songs. Just that one. So will the Oilers be the Beatles? And you have McDavid, and you got your great running mates, and you got all kinds of success, and you'll be remembered for years to come. Or will you be Sunglasses at Night? The one song that you hear on the radio and you know it, but you don't really know who sang it, and you're like, that guy's never written anything since that's really that noteworthy. 8675309 comes to mind as well. These analogies might be out there, but when I equate it to music, it makes sense in my brain. But interesting offseason upcoming for the Edmonton Oilers to see what they do to build on this and how they approach this upcoming offseason. Boston Bruins fired Bruce Cassidy yesterday. And I want to get to this topic, but I know Shamus is going to join any minute, and I want to talk about that with him. So we talked about this earlier in the season on the podcast, and I think he was on my side saying I think Bruce Cassidy could be in the line of fire. Another good movie, Clint Eastwood. And I I'm going to save that for when he hops on because I think that's an interesting conversation. What I'm going to talk about is Aaron Donald in Los Angeles, just for a minute here. If you didn't see it yesterday, Aaron Donald re-signed with the Los Angeles Rams, adding 2 years to 1 year left on his deal. So that's 3 years, can be $95 million with $65 million guaranteed over the next 2 seasons. And with this $90 million in the bank for Aaron Donald, it makes him the highest paid defensive player in league history. It guarantees him some security, and he bumps up that salary from $20 million to $30 million over the next 3 seasons. And it's a larger cap hit. Things happen. There's a signing bonus, so it doesn't kill their cap. They can still make some moves. But I'm happy that this got done. I felt this was going to get done. I never felt Aaron Donald was going to retire. He mentioned how he started his career saying he wanted to play 8 years. He's 31 years old. But after his dominant season last year, in my opinion, he should have been Super Bowl MVP. Cooper Kupp won it, but Aaron Donald was so dominant in that game. The last play of the game where he hits Joe Burrow and breaks up the pass. In life, if you're the best at something, you should be rewarded for it. Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in football. He's one of the best of all time. I think he's right up there with Lawrence Taylor, with Ed Reed, these type of guys, Deion Sanders. I believe Aaron Donald is right in that mix, and he should be rewarded for that. It's not as if he's had one great year. Aaron Donald has been dominant. He's been an all-pro every year his last 7 years since his rookie season. That's dominance, Holmes. And what this did for the NFL is, I believe every defensive player yesterday celebrated because they know their next contract, it's going to be breaking a barrier. Because it doesn't matter if nobody's as good as Aaron Donald. Maybe for the rest of the time, nobody will be as good as Aaron Donald. But it's not about if you're better than that player anymore. It's about when you're free, when you are a free agent, when you can cash in on that opportunity. Because now that Aaron Donald has set a new precedent, now that Aaron Donald has continued to put more money into the fund, then you're in a position where, okay, next time I'm up, next time I can make money, I'm going to ask for Aaron Donald's contract. And that's the way it's worked because quarterbacks continue to make more money, and they're not as good as the player that signed before them. Josh Allen is not as good as Aaron Rodgers. Josh Allen is a great player, but he has not done in his career. He hasn't won an MVP. He hasn't won a Super Bowl. He hasn't done any of that. Yet he makes just as much. He made more than Aaron Rodgers for a period of time. He's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. He makes as much money as Patrick Mahomes. Dak Prescott makes an inordinate amount of money. He doesn't deserve it. He hasn't won anything in this league. But it's about being free at the right time. So that's a great thing for the defensive side of the ball. On the other side, I think every quarterback winced yesterday when they saw that Aaron Donald was coming back to the NFL because you know that, my God, we have to deal with this guy again. We have to be ready for Aaron Donald every damn game. Every game, Aaron Donald is going to be coming at me. He's going to be in the pass rush. He's going to get in my face. It's not going to be fun for me. And there's something to say about that. The psychology of it, every game you're going into it thinking, crap, John Wick is on the other side and we have to deal with this machine. Aaron Donald is over there. How are we going to cover him? Are we going to double him? Are we going to triple him? What happens with Leonard Floyd? Are they going to run a corner blitz with Jalen because Aaron Donald is going to take up so many guys? It just creates more havoc. It creates more trouble for your offensive line, and it creates more opportunities for you to make a mistake. I'm happy he's back because, in my opinion, Aaron Donald's the best player in the NFL. Because Mahomes is great, but Mahomes choked last year against the Bengals. He doesn't have a great Super Bowl history. He's a great player, great quarterback. But again, I think there's stretches of seasons where Mahomes really doesn't play that great football. Josh Allen is great. His first half of the season last year, he wasn't that great. His completion percentage was way down. The Bills didn't look that sharp. They lost week 1 to the Steelers. He's great at his best. He's an elite quarterback. But we forget too often that sometimes Josh Allen just doesn't have it. You go through every quarterback in the NFL, they have points of the season where it's really ugly. It's an ugly stretch. It doesn't look good. Where I believe Aaron Donald is just consistent week in to week out. That defense normally plays well. He's got great players on it with him. He's got an all-pro in Jalen Ramsey. But the days of Tom Brady being considered a better player than Aaron Donald, it's over. I think Aaron Donald's been the best player in the NFL for some time. And I think he's earned this deal. I think he's earned the title as the best player in the NFL. He's surpassed these quarterbacks because he's more consistent than them. He does it night in, night out, where he's just week in, week out, he's dominant. And that can change because most people would say, Noah, you're wrong because Aaron Donald's a defensive player and quarterbacks have more effect on the game. Totally agree. He does. They do. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and all these guys have more effect on the game than Aaron Donald. I think that's true for most defensive players. But the way Aaron Donald plays, he has such an effect on the game because it affects the entire team's offense. Like Lawrence Taylor, you have to really consider how are you going to block this guy. When Lawrence Taylor was in his prime with the Giants, he ruined teams. He changed the NFL. He changed the left tackle position, and now it's one of the most lucrative positions in the NFL. These tackles now, and really what makes Aaron Donald so crazy, he doesn't have to play on the edge. He goes from the inside, so these guards are being tested week in, week out to block him. Offensive lines are broken up, and it provides opportunities for other people. And it's such a mind bender for teams. He has effects on offenses every week because not only is he good at getting to the quarterback, but it's not his primary skill. It's getting pressure on the quarterback, which leads to teammates getting sacks. But also, it's just the fact that he's great at stopping the run. There's just not much he's not great at. But for the Rams, you get Aaron Donald back. You get Matthew Stafford back. Van Jefferson will be back healthy. You signed wide receiver, was at the Bears, Allen Robinson, Jr. II. Cooper Kupp, the Super Bowl MVP, is going to be back. Tyler Higbee will be back from a torn ACL. Jalen Ramsey on the back end. You signed a linebacker. This team is going to be very good again. And having that piece, having John Wick, having the guy that you can't prepare for, the unknown, the unpredictable, is a leg up that you have on every other team. Having Aaron Donald is like having an individual immunity idol on Survivor that nobody knows about because you have an ace in the hole. You have a trump card where any game the Rams are in trouble, you're not getting great pass rush. You can say, we're going to put Aaron Donald out in the edge just to mess with this team, and it will get into their head because we've seen it. You have a poor offensive line. You're going up against the Rams. It's going to be very difficult for you to win. That's Cincinnati. They played a pretty good game in the Super Bowl, but ultimately it didn't pan out for them because they couldn't block that guy. They couldn't block the ace in the hole. They couldn't block John Wick. The Rams would have been good without Aaron Donald. We're a couple months away from the NFL season. We will see this week there are mini camps, and there's some OTAs, which is training for players. I know DK Metcalf is not going to mini camp this week because they are in the middle of a contract dispute, while guys like Kyler Murray, Deebo Samuel are handling their situations different. Kyler wants a contract. Deebo Samuel wants to be traded. They're showing up. This is the balance. This is the fight these players have. Do you go to minicamp? Do you do this? It's always a back and forth. Well, to get this Aaron Donald deal done, you got Stafford back. A lot of the same pieces. Sean McVay did not go to Amazon. He didn't go to the booth. He's coaching again this season. There's no reason why the Rams shouldn't be the favorite to win the Super Bowl. In my mind, Buffalo had a good offseason with Von Miller and Josh and all these guys. But to me, defending champions, Tom Brady's back with the Bucs, but the Rams beat the Bucs last year. So to think that it'll be different, I'm not so sure, but we'll wait and see this season. It's going to be fun. The NFL being back, the CFL is going to be back this week, which is great. To watch some football over here in Canada. It begins Thursday night. I'm looking forward to that. It's a good week for Canada. You got the Canadian Football League starting up again. You get the Canadian Open in golf going on also this week at St. George's in Ontario. So it's going to be a good week for Canada just to get some sports going on again up here. No more hockey in Canada now that the Oilers are out. Another season where the drought for a Stanley Cup and with a Canadian team is going to be almost 30 years, 29 years. Yeah, 1993. 29 years since the last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup. Montreal Canadiens in 1993 beat Wayne Gretzky and the LA Kings. We've obviously seen teams get to the finals. Montreal last year. We've seen Vancouver, Calgary in 2004, but no team has been able to get over that hump. So now 29 years of teams not getting to the Stanley Cup final. Sorry, not winning the Stanley Cup. It's really incredible if you think about it, that no Canadian team has been able to win one almost 30 years. Now, there's a futures bet you could lay on which Canadian team will break the curse. I know that's up on FanDuel because I saw it this morning. It's an interesting futures bet. If you feel good about a team going into next season, not a bad idea to do it. You can make it like a 5-year bet. You can do any sort of line, any sort of deep dive into this bet is what Canadian team will beat the streak of losing and not bringing the cup back to Canada. Interesting thought, but it's another year, 29 years of Canadian teams not winning the Stanley Cup, if you can believe it. I see we got our regular Tuesday guest on the line, repping the Celtics garb, and he's known by many as the biggest Tiny Tom Cruise stan in the business. It's good, buddy. Hair looks good. Hair looks good and slick back today. I like the look. It's Shamus Fillmore. Shay, how are you?
Can you hear me?
I can.
How's it going today, friend?
Good, man. Good, man. How are you? I like the hair.
So is what you just said, you're going to watch the new Tom Cruise Top Gun Maverick movie? That's good. We can confirm that here on the podcast. That's great.
We cannot confirm that. No. My parents are going tomorrow night, actually.
Yeah. Did they you're going to hop in and join them?
I declined.
Decline that offer. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell them if they need a third. I'm usually good for a third wheel, so I'll come with them. I don't mind.
No, do you plan on seeing the movie?
Well, I told you this a couple times. I have never seen Top Gun from '86, so it's hard for me to jump into one movie without seeing the other. So I think this weekend I'm gonna take in '86, and then I'll probably watch the new one. Yeah.
Well, Tally watched the new one without seeing the old one, and she said she could see it. Like, it made sense either way.
Oh, okay. So I can go in blind, and it's not.
You could go tomorrow. Yeah, meet my parents. Cinema. Hear you.
Hey, you guys got tickets here too? No, that's good. But glad to know. How was your weekend?
It was good. Pretty low key. Just kind of hung out and watched some sports. No surprise there. But yeah, no. I don't think it was as fun as yours. Saw you hit the links and had some fun doing that.
Yes, I got to go with your cousin, or one of your many cousins.
A few of them.
Skippy Doo Dada, and my brother, and yeah, won a little bit of cash off both of them. So can put that in, but not saying it was because I'm a good golfer. It's just a couple beers were involved, and things just shifted that way. So Casey, your money's next, so you better watch out. I think we're pretty even at this point.
Yeah, he likes to give people money. He's not good at gambling or I guess fantasy pools, because all he does is text me about how bad he does in yours. So I'm looking forward to starting our own, because I just know it's either me or you is going to win it. Let's start with Bruce Cassidy.
Okay.
I left this topic because I wanted to talk about it with you. I wasn't surprised. I thought this would happen earlier. I just kind of looked past. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be wrong that Bruce Cassidy is going to get fired, because I thought he would if they lost in the first round. But it's been almost a month since they've been beaten out, and I kind of forgot about it. And then it pops up last night that the Bruins have fired Bruce Cassidy. What'd you make of the decision and the timing of it?
Well, I thought maybe they did it as a respect. Like if you lose right away and then you get, outs, it's obviously like it's a headliner, and it's like, okay, well, definitely relates. But maybe this way they kind of do it. They ruffle it under the bed almost. You sweep it under, because if they fire him now, well, people are focused on this. They're focused on the Avs and the Oilers and Tampa and New York. They're not as focused on Boston. Just that's not a fresh wound. So that's kind of why I thought they did it now, out of respect for him, because he was a great coach there. Even I can admit that. And but like we both called it. We said in our coaches discussion there, he was going to be gone if they couldn't find a way out of the first round, and that's basically what happened.
Yeah, it's a fickle business, because he never missed the playoffs. He got to a Stanley Cup final. He had a lot of success in Boston, and this team's interesting because Marchand just had surgery on both hips. He's going to be out till at least probably December next year. McAvoy had shoulder surgery. Grzelcyk had surgery. Mike Riley had surgery. They're beaten up, to say the least. And Bergeron, who knows? He just won a Selke, but he could also retire. I think he will. So if Bergeron comes back, let's say, and the team's sort of similar as it was last year, of course, they'll make a few moves in free agency like every team. But if the team's similar as it was last year, does that signal to you that they believe that they can win a cup? They just needed a different voice in order to do it.
Yeah, if they bring everyone back, I expect a really big move from Boston this offseason, like really big. And I've got a name. I'm not going to name. Well, I might name him now. I think Mark Scheifele is on the board for them. He's that type of player. He's gritty, and they need a second line center. Sorry, Eric Holla, you're not cutting it. There'll be a lot of involved there with picks and obviously prospects, but I think they're going to take one more stab at it with the core nucleus of Bergeron and Marchand and Pasternak and McAvoy before probably Bergeron retires. Because like you said, if the only reason he'd come back is to win another cup, he's not coming back just to be there. You know what I mean? So if you see re-signing for $4 million by five-time Selke winner, then they're going all in. And I think Scheifele's a big move, and I think they would be willing to make it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I'd be interested how much they have to give up to get him. Because I'm sure Winnipeg will want some good prospects, some good picks. They traded away their first for Lindholm, I believe, last year, so they'd have to move that up. But yeah, I think it's a great fit for sure. I think he needs a change of scenery. I think it's growing tired in Winnipeg, and for both the team and for him, he's a little passive aggressive at the end of the year, talking about the team and things of that nature. But also, so say they bring in Scheifele, they got Bergeron will come back. Do they ask Krejci to return to play third line center?
Maybe. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know how well he played in the Czech. I imagine he played really well for how well he looked at the end of 2020. So it's a possibility for sure. I mean, you do have Eric Holla kind of there saying, okay, I can be that third line center and, be that two-way play PK and also give you valuable minutes. I know they have McAvoy as well, or McAvoy. They have Charlie Coyle, who can also play center position, but you got to think about guys that are going to have to go over in that trade. And I'd say Coyle is probably a big one, even though he's a mass kid.
Yeah. He could definitely be a guy that would move over I wouldn't want him
too.
He's a frustrating. I wish he played harder. But yeah, it's interesting. And because the next coach, I've read a piece on The Athletic this morning that Jay Leach, former NHLer, is the front runner. He was on the bench with Cassidy. So it's like doing what the Islanders did, where they just hired, the assistant with Barry Trotz, Wayne Lambert, who looks like Wolverine. But if you just hire the guy that's on the bench with Cassidy, it's an interesting move because he's been with them the whole time. And I guess you could look at it and say, well, we're hoping it's the Nick Nurse, Dwayne Casey type, and you have more success than the predecessor.
Yeah, you got to think that he's got to come in with some new ideas, and then he's already ran those ideas by front office. Otherwise, why would you take a cookie cutter guy to the head coach you just fired? It doesn't make any sense. So probably some back end conversations happening between the assistants and front office saying, if I'm in the room, I know combinations of lines, and I know dilemmas and things that can work that Cassidy's not doing because either he's stubborn or because he sees it in a different light. So I mean that's the only reason I'd see you bring back an assistant coach that would maybe have some effect on them.
Yeah, and I think Don Sweeney, he fired his last bullet because he's built a good team, and he deserves credit because Boston's been competitive forever. Nobody knows that better than you, being a Leafs fan. But they're getting old, and they're not as good as they used to be. And I think a big reason why they lost the first round is their goaltending. Ullmark started the first 2 games. He was terrible. You could argue if Cassidy had started Swayman, maybe one of those first 2 games, maybe they win the series. Maybe they don't, but that's just a thought. Swayman was a lot better.
In hindsight, what would you have started Swayman? Knowing
I thought he was going to in game 2. I would have, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not so much better than Ullmark, and that's part of the problem. I think you look at Edmonton last night. It's hard. It's a hard sell going into a season and to say our aspirations to win a cup when your team is adequate and your goaltending is marginal. It's hard. It's a hard sell. You might win a couple rounds. You might have some success, but I think it's hard to tell your team we're going to win a Stanley Cup when your goaltending is bottom tier in the National Hockey League.
I fully agree. I was thinking about this earlier today as I'm going for my walk, and I'm thinking there's really only one, maybe 2, probably more like 1A goalies in each division. After that, there's basically 2 1Bs, maybe 3 1Bs. That's not that many great goalies in the league. Like this is the weakest goaltending has been in a long time in the NHL.
Yeah.
So you got to hope like guys like Sebastian Kosa and the Swedish kid there, Wilbazad, or I kind of forget his name.
Oh, Wallstat. Yeah.
Wallstat. You got to hope this new wave of young goaltenders comes in and just dominates. Ottinger, hopefully for Dallas, turns into that guy. But I agree. This is weak goaltending, and it's not like you can just in the offseason go out and grab a goaltender because it seems like all of them are signed full time, and if one does come up, everyone's at his door to get him because that's how rare it is to get a 1A or 1B goalie nowadays.
Let me ask you this. If you're Edmonton this offseason, and I think your Leafs will kick tires on one of these 2 guys, but if you could grab Marc-Andre Fleury or Ville Husso, who would you sign? Say both would go there.
I'd probably take Husso, knowing I could keep him longer. And that's a good example. I mean, there's St. Louis who has 2 goaltenders and that could be starters for sure. I mean, Bennington has had his streaky seasons, but at the same time, when it comes in clutch, he was really good in the playoffs this year. So there's a lot to give up there, and they'll have to make a big decision coming up as well.
Yeah, because I think maybe they'll want to keep Husso and get rid of Bennington, and I take my chances with him. He's got a bigger contract, but again, he's a good player. So when he wants to be, but yeah, because Edmonton, I think, needs to make a move on a goaltender. It's inexcusable. Like Koskinen's finally up, so you can get rid of him. Thanks, Peter Chiarelli, for that parting gift. But if Mike Smith's the starter going into next year, that's Ken Holland. I don't know how you look McDavid and Draisaitl in the face and walk in there with a smile.
Yeah, because, I mean, these guys are good chums. I'm sure they're great in the locker room, but they know. I mean, they know that his time has passed them. And is he the only reason they lost this year? No. There was injuries. There was guys not playing up to par, not playing up to their contracts. But I fully agree. Like, that was definitely a major point of it. Like, even last night, he had a tough time in that third period. Tough time.
And he can't control his emotions still. Like, if he just calmed down a little bit, he might have made one of those saves down the stretch, but he's throwing his stick. He's having a temper tantrum. And he makes that play with the puck, and it's in the back of the net before you know it, and the game completely shifts, because I thought they were going to win last night in the third period. I thought they had the game on lock, but they ultimately didn't. Here's a goalie that came to mind. It's got a big ticket, but I think a team would take a chance on him because, as you just mentioned, goaltending is really poor. How about Bobrovsky in Florida?
Yes. The question is who can take on that contract.
Yeah.
Me being a capologist, I'd say if you could tell Florida to take a little bit of that contract off or involve a third party, that's not going to be good for a long time.
Arizona Sun Devils.
If you could say, hey, take $2 million or even $2.5 million off this contract and we'll make this happen, I think you got to take a chance, because really, like you said, it's so scarce. And when Bobrovsky's on, he's a two-time winning Vezina Trophy. He's not just some slum who just came out of nowhere. And did he play great in the playoffs this year? No, but he's played really well in Columbus, upset Tampa Bay. So he does have some playoff experience.
Yeah, and you got to think Spencer Knight, they drafted in the first round for a reason. They want him to be the future. So I think they'll want to move off him eventually because they'll want Spencer to be the starter. It's just a matter of when.
Probably soon, because if you think about it, Florida's got a window now where Barkov enters into a major contract. Huberdeau's still on that pretty, I would say, friendly contract for the team. But that's a core group of guys you got to keep. But at the same time, you're getting eaten up by by Bobrovsky's contract.
Yeah, very, very much so. It's a tough spot for. But Edmonton, there's a bunch of teams around the league. Your Leafs, I think, will be involved in the goaltending search, because I think Jack Campbell might just want more money than the Leafs can afford to get him. So that'll be interesting to follow this offseason as we get into it. From last night, I wanted to kind of have this little chat with Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon of it all. And McKinnon's been widely regarded as one of the best players in the world for the last number of years, and I think that's fair. But now we've seen Cale Makar really hop onto the scene. It's been such a breakout playoffs for him. And who's the better player right now, Makar or McKinnon?
I already had my answer last night set up for you, but then after the game, I had to slide in one guy's favor.
Did you have McKinnon before?
No, I had it at a tie. They were both kind of on that level. And I mean, McKinnon has said before he appreciates actually having someone to play at that high level. But yeah, after 5 points, a great goal, it's kind of hard not to give it to the kid. And it's the biggest difference for me is that McKinnon took probably 4 seasons to come into his own and be a dominant player. Makar was pretty much a dominant player coming into the league. So yeah, it's like I said, I was coming in with a tie, but it's now it's got to be a little bit Makar, because he is dominating in this postseason. Yeah,
he's playing incredible. To me, he's the best player in the Avalanche, and in those top 50 rankings are when we do our top 10 next year, I think he'll be high on both of our lists. I know he will be on one of ours anyway. Quite high. But yeah, just the way he defended McDavid in this series was incredible. He could match him speed for speed, and he eliminated and you also got to credit Devon Toews, because I think Devon Toews played fantastic in this series. He's the perfect partner, and that's half the battle as well for a guy like Makar, is just having somebody that you can trust. It's not a revolving door of guys. It's always where Devon Toews is, how it's going to be, and it's brought his game to another level completely.
Yeah, fully reliable. He's a great two-way defenseman. And he, if it's Makar going up in the rush, he has no problem sticking back and, making sure things are tight back at home. So I fully agree. And keeping that consistency all year together, it makes them aware of where each other are and how to play with each other, which I think you're right it's a problem for many defensemen, because you just get handed another partner so often, and then you have no idea how to play with them, and you have to learn everything so quickly, which, kudos to guys like Hedman, who gets a partner every night and still dominates, because I find that very difficult if I was on that side.
Yeah, it goes from Cal Foot to Ruda to you never know who he's playing with. Cernak. Yeah. Tonight's game, Rangers Tampa game 4. Tampa found a way to win on Sunday. Another really entertaining game. Palat scores with 41 seconds left. So Tampa has life, but New York is still very much in control. They handled their business. Tampa won a home game. That's what they should do. It's not a huge deal yet. I've been saying I think it's very important that New York wins earlier in this series because I think they're going to get tired. They played a lot of hockey. They haven't gone this far in the playoffs before. It's a very young core. And, Tampa's got rest. They have experience. So do you agree with that? And what kind of pressure do you think New York should be under tonight?
I fully agree. Like if it comes back and it's 2-2 and you're going back to New York, I mean, you're probably not scared shitless, but you're definitely worried because you're just warming up a certain guy in the back end named Big Cat. And he's going to get better and better as the series goes along. He had a duff of game 1, whether that was bad defense or maybe just nerves coming in, being on the cold seat. Maybe now he comes in and he just dominates like we know he can. But Rangers have a great offense, and I think they'll be able to break that. I think tonight's going to go 3-1 with full expectations of this maybe finishing up in New York. But I also had New York. What do you have, New York? We had Tampa Bay, both of us. It seems like what we pick just goes opposite. So.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to pick New York, but I didn't.
No. I feel stupid now.
Because I still think they're going to win the series.
What does New York need to do? I mean, now, like, if you're getting to these tighter games, like, is it up to Panarin to step up, or does another guy on the back end?
I've given up waiting on Panarin to step up because that guy's he's such a lazy. He's lazy and he doesn't give a shit and he doesn't have to take a shower after the game. But what the Rangers did so well in the first 2 games was their back check and puck pressure, where Hedman would get the puck and he had no time. They were just on him and he made mistakes. He played one of the worst games I've ever seen him play in game 2. I thought he was horrible. And the kid line's been great in this series. They're the best line 5-on-5 in game 3 by a mile, but you need more than just the kid line to play well 5-on-5. They scored both goals on the power play. I think it's very important for the other lines to play well 5-on-5 because there was only one 5-on-5 goal in game 3, which is Palat with 41 seconds left. But relying on special teams the whole game, relying on the refs to get you offense is a dangerous thing because sometimes it's just not going to go your way when it comes to calls.
Yeah, New York scores a lot of power play goals too. That's what I've noticed over this run. I'm like, okay. And I realized now that I think it was like 20 – Kreider had like 22, maybe 23.
22 in the regular season.
Yeah, power play goals. So you know what their bread and butter is. So if you're Tampa, play smart. Don't make these stupid mistakes that were just going to lead you into the box because you can win easily if the best line they have is 3 kids under 22 years of age.
Yeah. I love Shesterkin, but if he continues to flop, I'm not going to be able to support him anymore. That Corey Perry play, that was one of the biggest dives I've seen in some time.
Oh, yeah. You almost got to be embarrassed, like, if you're one of his teammates. Like really? Like, what are you trying to sell a call here? Like, I get it. You do anything to win, and I get that mentality, but play with a little pride, for God's sakes. Like, you're not in Pee-wee here.
This isn't soccer. You're Russian. You should have some tough. Like, come on. You got a war going on over there. Diving around. But yeah, I just think for Tampa, they're going to get better. Strome's a game time decision. He got hurt in game 3. He left, so he's no guarantee to play tonight. So we'll wait to hear on that. And Point skated yesterday. So the longer the series goes too, you got to wonder if Point can make it a return to the lineup, and that's obviously scary for any opponent.
Yeah, you got half a Draisaitl out there. He got 4 assists and was probably Edmonton's one of his better player. I think Point can be just as effective if he gets in this series half or 50%.
Yeah, I think it's good for the Edmonton that they lost last night because I don't know if Draisaitl could have went in game 5 because he gave everything he possibly had last night.
Yeah, he got hit once, and like the grimace on his face when he got up looked like it hurt me a little bit sitting on my very comfortable couch at home. And kudos to him too for playing well and being a factor. A lot of for Edmonton, if they would have had a goaltender and a healthy team, I think this could have been at least a competitive series. But obviously, they had neither.
So, without knowing who Colorado is going to play, would you put money on Colorado to win the Stanley Cup right now?
I wouldn't because I don't trust Francois.
Yeah.
He has a shutty, but then he has a game like last night where it's just like, okay, you can't make one. You can't make one one-on-one save. Like, what the hell?
Zach Hyman scores from 80 feet away.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, you've got no consistency here, and no Kadri. I mean, he is a big part of their top six, and they can replace him with Rantanen, but it's not going to be the same. So I don't put my life savings on. I put a lot of cash on, but as for who's going to win, I'm not sure. What about yourself? Are you leaning that way with your boy in the back?
I didn't have faith on them the whole playoffs, and they're really starting to buy me in, but I agree with it. Well, it could be Kemper, but Kemper's as soft as Freddie Anderson or any of those. He backed up last night, but he couldn't play. I do not understand that.
Me neither.
So you can go in if the guy gets hurt, but you can't play. That's baffling. I'll never understand goalies. I hate them all. But other than Vash, because he's number one bullshit. But other than that, other than the guys that just battle, I worry about the goaltending, and I agree with you with Kadri. It's so unfortunate for him. He's playing great. That was just a dirty hit from Evander Kane. Go figure. Broken thumb, had surgery yesterday, so
he's out.
Tough blow for him, obviously, and for Colorado, although Compher's played extremely well in his place. I thought Compher's had a great postseason. But, yeah, I would wait because I think the Rangers would be the more interesting matchup because the Rangers are fast, like Colorado. It might be more free-flowing. It might be a little more like the Oilers series with Rangers just being a better team with Shesterkin. Where Tampa, I'd wait because I want to see what the line is. I want to see what the underdog's paying because I always like to bet the underdog.
But if you knew if Colorado is playing really good money right now, regardless, like if Vegas thought whatever team is in the East is going to win this, would you slam cash down on Colorado right now?
I probably would just for fun. Yeah, throw $20 or something on them just for fun.
I was thinking about more than that, but yeah, that's
$100.
Yeah, like 100 cheat if you thought the odds were good. If you thought Colorado was like not the underdog whatsoever, I would throw any money on
this
them.
This is what I do if you were going to do that. I throw $100 on Colorado to win the cup, and I parlay it with Makar to win the Conn Smythe.
Oh, dangerous.
Yeah, I think he's going to win. I think if they win it, he wins it because no goalie's going to win it. We know that.
No.
And McKinnon has been good, but he hasn't been great.
Yeah.
He might have a great Stanley Cup final, and that may push him over the edge, but he's been okay. He hasn't been fantastic so far this postseason.
It's so interesting how like McKinnon obviously is a workhorse. He works hard, but Makar is just so much smarter, and his IQ is just what makes him so much better. In my opinion, like he's taking shots from like, put it this way, McKinnon can take 11, 12 shots a game. He might get a goal. Well, Makar might only have to take 4 or 5 because he knows exactly when to shoot and when the goalie screened from the back end.
Right.
And he's got a better long distance wrister.
Yeah, I agree. His ability to get shots through and to find the angles is incredible. Like he rarely ever gets a shot blocked. He's superhuman. Him and Adam Fox and Hedman, the 3 defensemen left, are all pretty damn good. We got some breaking news here on the podcast.
Let's hear it.
I'm going to say this before I tell you what happened. A manager was fired in Major League Baseball. Without looking at your phone, do you have any inclination, any thought of who it might be?
Not going to be Charlie.
No,
his favorite manager.
This team is struggling. Struggling lately.
Seattle's manager?
No, good guess. Same division.
Angels?
Joe Madden has been fired by the Los Angeles Angels. They've lost 12 in a row, and they're teetering right on the border of another failed season. I thought this is a big move for the Angels to do this because Madden is so loved around baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But the Phillies did it, and they swept the Angels last week. The Angels lost last night to Boston. That get shut out at home, 1-0. And I think that teams do this. You try to get a boost at the midway point because it's about the time that if you're going to do it, you do it now. But this is desperation at its core. But I also think it's not the craziest move in the world by the Halos.
No, I fully agree with you. I mean, this team on paper is pretty good when you think about it. Like, they have good bats. Of course, pitching is not maybe where it needs to be to win a World Series, but it's not, for say, like the worst pitching in the league either.
No, they got Syndergaard for basically nothing.
Yeah, and like, is that project fully paid off yet? No, I don't think so. Even though last night's loss was definitely not his fault, that's on the team. But like, I think batting will come around after a while. You'll start to see Trout bat a little bit better. Rendon, I don't know. Ever since that shortened season, Rendon is just on and off health wise. It's just been tough for him. This Tyler Ward kid seems to be pretty good. He's batting really, really well. I hope they keep that up. But like I said, I think bats will return back to normal. But maybe it is just a cultural change. I'm not sure. Like you said, it worked for Phillies. Maybe it'll work for these guys.
Yeah, and it's back to back. Like, old school managers get fired. Madden and Girardi are both guys. Yeah, it's definitely shifting, and I think the player empowerment era and the way they do things is definitely sweeping through baseball now. And yeah, we'll see. They're just baseball. Bobby Mans, aka Bob Manfred, probably made the call himself to get this done because he is dying for the Angels to be good. He needs the Angels to be competitive because there's such a draw. And you want them in the playoffs. You want Trout. You want Ohtani to be pitching the All-Star game, and then also be pitching the wild card opener. Whatever it is, you're dying for that to happen. So this is a move that I think is for the Angels, and I also think baseball is like, okay, get it together because we need you guys to be competitive here.
Realistically, can they get back to a wild card spot? I don't think they'll ever catch Houston, but do you think they'll get to a wild card spot?
I'll say this. I think Seattle's got a better chance.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I thought Seattle would be better than they are right now, and I think they still have the opportunity to turn it around.
Okay.
And although I'm betting on Seattle, and that's like betting on the Sacramento Kings, but I like the nucleus of their team. They got good players, but I don't root against the Angels. If I had to watch a playoff game where I have to watch the Guardians, still hate the name, or, Mike Trout and Ohtani, I'll take the Halos every day of the week.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think they can. Like I said, I think it's about getting healthy and then getting some of these pitchers on track. Maybe switching up the bullpen too. They've got some relievers there that need to go and to bring in some young love.
Yeah, just ask the Yankees if they'll pawn off a few for you out of the bullpen. Just send it to you, via fax.
They are deep.
Let's get to the NBA. You got your Celtics jersey on. You got the split. Game 3 tomorrow because they need 85 days off between games.
It's ridiculous. You want to start with that? Like, what is?
Let's start with that.
3-day breaks. Like,
yeah.
I think that's like, not to have a game on a Saturday just so each player gets a 3-day break in the same city might be the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I get it. It's the finals. Oh, you got to spread this out and make this big, long event for money and promotions. And like, no, like Saturday night, people want to watch that. They don't want to watch it Sunday. They're going to bed.
Yeah. I wanted to go to bed, but I couldn't. Damn it.
Exactly.
And like this week, they play Wednesday and then Friday. So there's no games on the weekends.
Yeah.
Like, Friday's kind of a throwaway day. I don't know if you feel that way, but like when you get to Friday, you're like, it's sort of the weekend, but you're tired. You just go to bed, right? You're kind of tired unless there's a game, so you stay up for it. But there's no Saturday or Sunday game. Like, there'll be no weekend game the rest of the NBA season. Like, it doesn't, and the games start at 10 o'clock East Atlantic, so it's a mess.
You would think that that's when they get their most views on a Saturday game at like 7, 8.
9:30, whatever.
Yeah, like, you put them so late that most of the East Coast is like, okay, I'm not staying up for this. Like, most of them hate Boston anyways, because Boston fans are some of the worst fans in the world. I know, because I am one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm sure someone from the NBA or someone with maybe better insight would be able to explain to us what the hell is going on with scheduling.
Because it goes Wednesday, Friday this week.
Yeah.
They don't need 3 days off between those days. But anyway.
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
The NBA. So let's talk about. I was thinking about this. The first two games, obviously the fourth quarter for the Celtics in Game 1 was the story where they just completely dominated. In large thanks due to Brown, Horford, and Derek White. And then in Game 2 is the Golden State third quarter where they really just routed the Boston Celtics, and the game was a wrap from there. We saw Nick Stauskas, Naismith, and the cast of Goonies on the court for the Celtics at the end of the game. So if we get a tight game in the fourth quarter, say last 5 minutes, I thought it'd be fun to talk about who you'd have out there from each team as your last 5 guys. And I thought we'd compare and kind of talk about it, because I think there's a lot of different ways that this can go.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great idea, by the way, by you.
Thank you.
My list is going from most important to least important for each team. So when I say a guy, it's the guy I want out there fully, and then the 5th guy is like, okay, I have to put him out here.
Right.
Do you want to start with Celtics, G-State? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, let's go Celtics.
Okay, so obviously Tatum is the most important for me, anyways. Clutch player, obviously, is he is the only, this is ridiculous, the only game-winning shot at Boston Celtics history in the playoffs. So he kind of deserves a right to be on this list. Brown is my second, although he's kind of a liability defensively, which we can probably get into more later. But, he does hit clutch shots, and he does make good shots. I thought he had a pathetic Game 2. And like I said, we'll get into that in a little bit. Grant Williams is my third. And you're thinking, Grant Williams has 2 points in 2 games. Well, Grant Williams is also a really good defender. And I would trust him to play against Draymond and some of these bigger bodies down. And if it was Grant Williams or Robert Williams, you know which Williams I'm taking, because Robert Williams
he's hurt.
He's just done. He can't play. Yeah. He gets 14 minutes a night, and that's a stretch for what he should be doing. Fourth, I have Horford. I mean, experience, obviously. He can be an exchanging factor. He didn't, defensively, he still has it, which is great. Obviously shaky offensively at times, but if he does get an open 3, I don't mind him taking that shot, because he can make it. And then Smart, solely because he's so down this list, because he's bagged up as well. He is another guy, pathetic Game 2. Really, really could have been the story for, the Boston Celtics game, because he just did not play well. And that's my 1 to 5. But Smart would be higher on that list, obviously, if he was
right.
healthy.
I have Tatum, of course. I have Brown. I have Derek White 3.
Okay, I didn't even have him.
I'd rather have Derek White out there than Smart, because you said health-wise, and I think Derek White's defended Steph Curry pretty well so far in this series. He's playing hard, and he's making his threes. Like, he's making his shots. He's been a great addition for this. Great trade. Yeah. I got Horford, like you. He can guard Draymond. He can help on the pick and roll. And he'll grab boards. He'll grab an offensive rebound even in some moments for the Celtics. And my 5th guy, again, I'm not going to put Smart on my list, because it's just something I don't trust about. I also hate him in the last couple of minutes, because he just fires up shots, and I don't want him shooting. Yeah. If he's not on the floor, he can't shoot. I went with Peyton Pritchard.
Oh, okay.
And my reason there is he doesn't necessarily – I think White would guard Curry, but Pritchard can just kind of hang back. He's a guy that, and I think you mentioned you're okay with Horford shooting an open 3. I think you're very comfortable with Pritchard shooting an open 3 as well.
And to be honest, like, Pritchard might be even have a better ball controller than Smart is. Like, I feel like I'd trust Peyton to make a play, or to even get past a guy more than Smart, because Smart, we've seen it in the game. I think it was Game 6 against Milwaukee. Like, those last couple plays where he got blocked by Holiday and then picked off. Like, you can't have that if you're a starting point guard on a championship winning team. So Yeah, it's not two guys I didn't have on my list, but I can see why you would have them. Derek White played really, really well in game one.
And I think Grant is the X factor, like you said. Just what kind of mood Draymond's in and how many fouls he has, because I think both of them are two of the most annoying players in the NBA in a positive way. I think
good for their teams. Yeah,
I know you don't like Draymond, and I get it, but I think Grant's similar. Like, I think I look at Ime Udoka, and there's times where I think he just wants to strangle Grant Williams because he's like just constant. He doesn't shut up, and he's always going on. But that's a good thing because he, like you said, he's annoying. He gets in your face, and it's just kind of controlling his temper a little bit at times and not taking quick fouls.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So let's move to Golden State, where this can get interesting. The final five.
All right, that's number one. This big surprise to anyone who watches basketball. Steph Curry's the number one guy on my list.
Damn, I thought you were going with Mooney.
Yeah, there's no reason to be no reasonable explanation to why this guy is just the best player on the court, probably. Number two, but this might surprise some people. I have Jordan Poole. At times you're thinking, well, Poole's coming off the bench. Is he doing much? But he can be a really, really clutch player. I just think he needs the room to be so. And I was under the impression that Poole's leaving Golden State at the end of this year, but I feel less and less likely every time I see him play because I think they're going to get rid of somebody else that we'll get to later. Next, I have that's my nickname for him, Donkey, aka Draymond Green, because just yapping and just doesn't stop yapping.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna make waffles. And yeah, is he driving me up the wall? Yes, but do I want him out there in clutch moment? Also, yes, because he's either going to draw a foul, he's going to make an outstanding play, which he seems to do time and time again, or he might even get a rebound. So there's just too many factors to keep him off the court. Next, I have Andrew Wiggins. He just lower on my list, but I think he had a quiet 20 points the first game. There was times I was like, damn, he's playing well, but he's just kind of drifting around. And to a shocking, I don't have Klay Thompson this list. I have Looney.
Neither do I.
Looney I have because he'll be able to grab you a board and more importantly an offensive board. And I'd rather take that than Klay Thompson missing. What do I have here? 4 for 19 from 2.
Clay's, it's tough to see. I hate to see it because I really like Clay. I think everybody does. But he's just not the same player he was anymore. He's not the same defender. He can't shoot as well. And I wouldn't have him out there either because I just don't. I think he's more of a liability. Unless Pritchard is out there, like I just said, maybe you can put Clay and Pritchard kind of go off to the side together, and that's kind of an afterthought position. But I think Curry in that spot, Curry and Wiggins are your two guys that you want shooting the ball in that situation. You never want Draymond shooting a three. That Celtics can leave him open the whole time. You want give him that shot.
They did once. It was I think it was like it barely graced the net. It didn't even. I don't even think they touched the rim.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
But yeah, I wouldn't. I can't play Clay either. I don't. I just. You're trying to win. This isn't about you. He's a great guy. He'll be on the team next year. He's under contract, but this is about winning the ultimate prize, and he'll get a ring too, whether he's on the floor or not.
Yeah, it's just not the same 15 to 19. That he's not that player anymore, and that's just kind of clear. Still very valuable. I'm sure he'd be good. Do you consider if you're Steve Kerr playing him off the bench and playing Jordan Poole up front?
Maybe. I think you like Poole's energy, just to come off and kind of get a spark, maybe. And Poole, I think to start the game, I think if they started the game, I think Brown would just attack Jordan Poole. He can't guard anybody.
No, he's pretty.
Jaylen Brown started off game 2 like red hot. He had like 11 points in the first 2.5 minutes, and then he had 8 points the rest of the game. He went quiet after that, but. I have a very similar to you. I got Wiggins, I got Looney, Draymond, Curry, and I had a battle. I went with Gary Payton Jr. the second for my 5th guy, and I just think he's a good defender. I think he can guard Tatum or Brown, whoever you want him to take. And this Golden State lineup is very defensive, but they're going to guard well. And like you said, I think Wiggins can grab an offensive rebound. Looney will work hard to get an offensive rebound. Peyton will just dive at knees, whatever he can to get a ball. So it's a physical lineup late in games that can make it tough for Boston to score at the rim and, pretty much anywhere on the floor.
How about that call on Jaylen Brown where Gary Payton was going up for the dunk, and Brown, I don't know if he touched him or not. He might have touched him with a fingertip.
Yeah.
And, they're like, it was all over the internet. What a vicious, Brown with a vicious defending foul. I got a kick out of that because the league is so fucking soft. What do you think about Udoka getting the tech in game 2? Do you think clearly it didn't rile up the team like he probably thought it would, but do you enjoy it? Because Brad Stevens is so
Harvard law.
But Udoka shows a lot of emotion, and you talked about Grant Williams wanting to kill him. At least you get that emotion from him, and I think more coaches are loved that way than the Stevens.
Yeah, I think he's a great coach. I liked it because I think it was poor officiating the other night. I disagree with the people saying Draymond should have been tossed out of the game. I think that's a bit excessive. I
agree with that.
But I do think there were some calls there. I think they called a foul, like you said, when Gary Payton pulled down. Was it Poole that dragged him?
Jordan Poole, got Derek
White. That could have been a technical because that was a bad play by Poole. But that's fine by Udoka. You got to work the refs. It's a long series. It's a new set of referees every game. It's 12 guys. It's a rotation. So likely Scott Foster, aka the extender, will get the job tonight. So I don't know if that helps the Celtics' chances or hurts them. What is your thought on that?
Scott, I hate Scott Foster. I try to explain this to Kennedy, how notorious this referee is for being such a nuisance and just making some overall bad calls.
Right.
But it could go either way. I feel like it's whatever way he wakes up that morning. He's like, okay, I'm going to screw this team over, or I'm just going to screw everybody over, which sometimes he does as well. So
yes,
he's the biggest egomaniac. I don't, out of all the referees, in my opinion, I don't know how he still has a job.
I agree. Yeah, he's bad. It's so hard to tell. I would think it would hurt the Celtics because you want the road team to win. So then game 4, but that's trying to get into a mind of official, which is so hard to do. But ultimately, if Tatum doesn't turn the ball over as much and Brown doesn't dribble, the Celtics play like they did in the second half of game 1, they'll win. They'll win the series. I really think they're a better team by a sizable margin when they're playing at their best.
Right. I think just injuries is just holding them back from playing 100%. I mean, that's probably a stupid thing for me to say, but it totally is. Tatum's banged up with a shoulder. Smart's got hands injuries. Robert Williams got a knee that's no good. These guys are hurt, but because it's been such a long playoff for them, they played 2 Game 7 series. Obviously, they're going to get banged up in both of those. But I think they have it too. It's just about kind of playing simple and not doing too much. Like Brown going in and trying to make a ridiculous drive where he just runs into somebody's chest, loses the ball, and then that's right back, and Steph Curry lays up another 3. They can't let that happen. I mean, they're so much better than that, and I think they got to prove it. What I have written down here. Both the starts of both games were similar, where they're both super close.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And things just unravel, whether it's for Boston or Golden State in the second half. So, maybe pulling away early is kind of the key to either of these, because if you can pull away early, you're going to have a decent chance to either extend a lead or retain a drive from the opposing team.
Yeah, it definitely could, because like you said, both teams have. It's been like a 2-point game after each first quarter. It's really hard to tell which team's going to win. Golden State was shooting their heads off in game 1, but it was a 3-point game, and Boston just kept it close there. And Golden State had a good third quarter, but then the fourth quarter they completely fell asleep. So interesting series. Game 3 tomorrow. Who's winning tomorrow?
It's always hard separating the mind and the heart on these ones. No, I think Boston will come in. I think there's gonna be a lot of energy. One thing about Golden State, there's a lot of bandwagoners on this fan base. I'm not gonna lie to anybody in saying that, but they have a lot of energy in their arena, which I appreciate, especially when they get hot. Boston's got to match that energy, and if they do, I think they'll win.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the Celtics win tomorrow night. I expect Jason Tatum's. I think his confidence has been a little flaky so far in the finals. Anyway, he hasn't looked completely set. I think he'll have his best game of the playoffs tomorrow. I expect
that. Anyway, Tatum on all fronts for betting.
Yeah, I probably would. I think it's a Tatum. He's been quiet. It's the night to do it.
I'm with that. I'm taking him.
All right, I like it. Yeah, I guess we're Tuesday. Any plans for the rest of the week? Are you playing in that ball tournament up here, or are you coming back up for that, or what's your plans?
I'm kind of wishy-washy. I've had some car problems, so I might not even have a set of wheels to make it up.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. But if I do have a set of cars, I might make it. It's a big tournament. Ross was a huge part of my life growing up, and it's a way to honor him and also see a lot of his family members and a lot of people I don't get to see very often. So I always appreciate the time to go up there. And, we haven't had this tournament since 2019. So obviously it's been a long time coming. But other than that, if I don't go, it's just a lot of lawn work, a little bit of golf, trying to get my game in order, and watching Boston on Friday night. I'll be watching Boston no matter where I am, because that's
right.
Game came forward.
Yeah, can't watch them on Saturday though.
Yeah. No, not watch no more of the weekend, but Friday night and Wednesday night, which make no sense. Question for you. One thing I did mention in our pool that we're going to do, and for those who elaborate, me and Juggy and Wardo, we're going to do a 3-man pool where we pick 3 guys for each upcoming event here on Oak with the PGA. Is it closest to? Did we do a closest to battle, or do you have to win it? Do you have to pick a winner?
I was just thinking pick a winner.
Okay, so pick a winner if that person
outright winner, and then you win the cash.
Okay, gotcha. I feel that.
Yeah. So Canadian Open this week's exciting. Back up here in Canada. Great field. No DJ because he just resigned from the PGA Tour, and old lefty. Do you see Phil got $200 million to go play on the Live Tour?
Yeah, if there was an ultimate finesser, he's won that title by a large margin. I can't think of one off the top of my head right now, but he's up there. $200 million to watch an old man stack it around and probably gamble it all away would be interesting. Good for them. Where's your first event? You said London?
London, England.
Okay, yeah, gonna be exciting to see Phil and who's the other guy that just signed on? I know there's
DJ Dustin Johnson.
No, there was another guy.
Kevin Na.
No, not the
Lee Westwood.
Is Lee Westwood gone?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. I had a lot of respect for Lee. That's faded.
Your boy's gone, Lee Westwood.
Yeah. No, there was another controversial name, but I know Sergio. I think he's going.
Sergio's there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's take his master's jacket away from him, would you?
Chase Koepka, your boy.
Really?
Yeah, Brooks Koepka's brother, Chase.
Oh, I didn't know that. The lesser of the man. I bet Brooks is right
much
there. He keeps playing like this.
Brother. Yeah, nobody even knows who he is, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, he's sitting at a Miami Heat game, which they always show. I don't know. You might start losing that privilege too.
No. Well, if you don't make it up to the ball tournament, I'm gonna try to make it up there for an appearance on Saturday, I think.
Oh, okay.
Depending on the Canadian Open and stuff like that, and my busy schedule. It's so busy. But
no basketball.
No, UFC Saturday night though. Fun
who's
card.
Fighting?
Yeah. It's 2 title fights with there's Glover Teixeira's defending his light heavyweight title against Yuri Prochazka, who is a fun fighter, really crazy hair, fun guy to watch fight. He's had some really interesting knockouts in his career. And then we got Joanna and Jacek, who hasn't fought in 2.5 years, against Zhang Weili. They had one of the best fights in the history of the UFC. If you go back and watch that one, it was a huge fight. Jan Jacek's face was like dented in, like her face was like deformed after this fight. Google Google her and you'll find it's JJ Ioana and G Check. If you want to see her face, like it's worth the Google because she honestly looks like a cartoon character. But these two are going back at it. So yeah, it's in Singapore, so another UFC card, but looking forward to watching that Saturday night.
Okay, I gotcha. JJ, what's her name?
Ioana and G Check.
Ioana and G Check.
Yeah, she's a good fighter. She lost her title initially to Thug Rose Namajunas, so she lost. She had some really great fights in her career, so I'm looking forward to seeing her get back at it. But
yeah, good luck to the returnee.
Yeah, well, good stuff today. Appreciate the time and best of luck to your Celtics tomorrow and Friday night.
Thanks, my friend. Hopefully I get to see you over the weekend. And yes, we'll be in touch for our draft picks for this week.
We'll chat then. There's Shamus Fillmore, everybody. Good to see Shay today, as always. But yeah, we're going to be doing a little golf bet. And, just we're going to be $10 every week. And the winner takes home the pot, and looking forward to this. A little friendly competition, just a little friendly competition. Pick a win. 3 guys every week. You pick a winner, you go home with the money. So looking forward to that. Tomorrow we'll recap tonight's Rangers Tampa game. Also going to talk I want to get more into this Angels firing with Joe Madden. I think there's more to it. The Phillies fire Joe Girardi. There's veteran managers. This is a shift in baseball and also the time of the year. So we're going to get more into that story tomorrow. And we'll also start to preview the Canadian Open and some things like that. So have a great night, everybody. Take care. Talk to you tomorrow here into the point.